You ever root for something so long that it feels like destiny's just teasing you? That's Tampa Bay's story when it comes to Major League Baseball. Before the Rays ever took the field, this region spent nearly 3 decades chasing the big leagues, getting this close again and again and again. From wild relocation rumors to political brinkmanship, from courtrooms to ballparks that sat empty for years. This is the story of how Tampa Bay almost had 7 different teams before finally getting one of its own. Welcome to Overtime Sessions. Baseball roots in Tampa go all the way back to the late 1800s. Civil War soldiers brought the game south, and by the early 1900s, teams like the Tampa Bay Baseball Club and Ybor City semi-pro squads were already swinging bats under the Florida sun. By 1913, the Chicago Cubs rolled into Tampa for spring training, and soon after, the Boston Red Sox, Yankees, and Cardinals followed. Baseball wasn't just a pastime here, it was part of the region's DNA. But for decades, Tampa Bay was a spring training stop, never a permanent home. That started to change in the late 1960s, when St. Petersburg Times publisher Jack Lake started publicly campaigning for a major league team. He believed Tampa Bay could absolutely support one. He was right, just about 30 years early. By the 1980s, local businessman Frank Marsani became the face of Tampa Bay's baseball dreams. A successful car dealer and lifelong fan, Marsani made it his mission to bring Major League Baseball to Florida by any means necessary. The first team was the Minnesota Twins. The first shot came when the Minnesota Twins were struggling. Their owner, Calvin Griffith, was running out of money. Attendance was tanking, and Marsani saw his chance. He actually bought a 42% minority stake in the team and had plans to take over completely, with one catch. He wanted to move them to Tampa. A $94 million dome stadium plan was even drawn up for Tampa proper, but MLB had other plans. The league stepped in, pressured Griffith to sell to local banker Carl Pohlad, and blocked the move. Pohlad's promise to keep the team in Minnesota, plus MLB's fear of opening the floodgates for relocation, kept the Twins where they were, and that rejection set the tone for everything that would follow. So a little fun fact about the sale of the Minnesota Twins in 1984, it wasn't just Marsani and Pohlad who were involved in trying to buy the team. Another famous person actually was trying to buy the Twins as well, and that would be Donald Trump. In 1984, Trump made a substantial $50 million offer to purchase the Minnesota Twins from Calvin Griffith, significantly exceeding the $36 million that Carl Pohlad eventually paid for the franchise. Griffith went with Pohlad because he knew that the team was going to stay in Minnesota, and wasn't so sure with Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump was looking to buy other sports franchises during the 80s, and one of them, he attempted to buy the Cleveland Indians in 1983. He would not commit to keeping the team in Cleveland for more than 3 years, with Tampa mentioned as one possible relocation destination. So he was rejected the bid to buy Cleveland because he wasn't going to commit to keeping the team in Cleveland. With that being out of the way, we'll fast forward a few years. By 1988, Marsani's Tampa Bay Baseball Group was back in business. The Texas Rangers were in financial trouble under owner Eddie Chavez, and Marsani had a deal on the table. $85 million for the team, with plans to play temporarily in Al Lang Stadium before moving into the brand new Florida Suncoast Dome, what we know now as Tropicana Field. Once again, MLB blocked it. Minority owner Edward Gaylord matched Marsani's offer. The league sided with the Texas group, and the Rangers stayed put. It was deja vu. Tampa Bay was ready, but MLB just wasn't. But no almost was more dramatic than the White Sox. Comiskey Park in Chicago was falling apart, and the team owners Jerry Reinsdorf and Eddie Inhorn were threatening to move unless they got a new stadium. Tampa Bay's offer, a new home in the Suncoast Dome by 1990, a warmer market, and a fresh fan base. On June 30th, 1988, the Illinois legislature met with 1 hour left before midnight. The funding bill for a new Comiskey Park was 6 votes short, until Governor James Thompson delivered one of the most dramatic speeches in sports politics. You want to be known as a group that let the White Sox leave? Your grandchildren will spit on your graves. 3 minutes past midnight, literally 12:03 a.m., the bill passed by the slimmest possible margin. The Sox stayed in Chicago. Tampa Bay lost again. By 1991, the Mariners were on life support. Owner Jeff Smulyan was millions in debt and set a 120-day deadline for a sale, or he moved the team to Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay group, led by Morsani and Vince Naimoli, was ready with cash in a stadium that had been waiting empty for 2 years. Then, in a plot twist straight out of a movie, Nintendo stepped in. Company president Hiroshi Yamauchi, who wasn't even a baseball fan, invested $75 million to keep the team in Seattle. It worked, and MLB approved the deal, and the Mariners stayed put. If Tampa Bay ever came closest to the finish line, it was here. In August 1992, Giants owner Bob Lurie agreed to sell the team to a St. Petersburg group for $110 million. Tampa Bay Giants logos were printed, 30,000 fans put down deposits. The city was ready. Then came the National League owners' vote, and Tampa lost by 1 vote. MLB decided the Giants would stay in San Francisco, sold instead to local investors led by Peter McGowan, who immediately signed Barry Bonds to one of the biggest contracts in baseball history at that time. Tampa Bay was crushed. The Suncoast Dome stood empty again. So there were 2 other franchises that were linked to a relocation to Tampa Bay, but there weren't any serious negotiations to make that happen, and they were the Oakland Athletics and the Kansas City Royals. After all those heartbreaks, MLB finally announced expansion. 2 new teams for 1993. Tampa Bay, with a modern dome and a proven fan base, felt guaranteed to win. But in June 1991, when the results came in, the winners were Denver and Miami, not Tampa. The reason? Money. Miami had billionaire Wayne Huizenga, owner of Blockbuster Video and the Miami Dolphins. Denver had a massive regional market and 28 corporate investors. Tampa Bay's group, led by Morsani, relied too heavily on loans and public bonds. MLB called the finances too risky. Morsani, after years of chasing this dream, filed for bankruptcy and later sued MLB for $110 million, claiming they broke promises about future expansion. The case dragged on for over a decade. But Tampa Bay didn't quit. In 1994, a new group, led by Vince Naimoli, restructured the bid. They had $130 million in cash, a ready stadium, and the persistence of a city that refused to give up. And on March 9, 1995, MLB announced it. Tampa Bay was getting a Major League Baseball franchise. The Tampa Bay Devil Rays were born. They began play in 1998, 14 years after their first failed relocation bid. The dream that had slipped away so many times had finally come true. So originally, this video was just supposed to be about the Tampa Bay Rays stadium situation that was damaged from Hurricane Milton. Well, I started researching about it, and this is where I found all these relocation stories of how a bunch of franchises failed to make it to Tampa Bay. And as I was wrapping it up, news broke about them potentially being sold. So I wanted to hold off to see if this was actually going to happen, and we learned just a few weeks ago they were finally sold. So this will be another mini-series that I'm going to be doing on this channel. We already discussed the Rays finally getting the baseball to Tampa Bay, and then next episode I'll talk about their time in Tampa Bay, all the way up to where the hurricane damaged the stadium, to where they are today, and what the future holds for them. So stay tuned for more episodes like this. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you want more stories like this, subscribe. And I'll see you next time in Overtime.